My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Rita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news, first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching.
SOUQ News.
The bank was totally gone, so there was nothing to say they had. But we still approached them and said we would like to take over this bank. The journey since 1997 has been one thing or the other, and I'm happy that many years down the line we look back and we're happy that we're audacious and bold to make them move at the time. That's why today in UBA, perseverance, resilience is a core virtue, a core attribute, a core value of ours, because we apply that early on in this journey. So that's how it all started.
Leadership, according to some Peters, entails vision, enthusiasm, trust, verve, passion, and consistency. If there's one man who graciously combines these virtues, the name Tony Elumelu comes to mind.
They say that success to a large extent is dependent on being at the right place at the right time. I say to people, my elder brother, who is 7 years older than me, he doesn't have gray hair. I have gray hair. My gray hair started from the merger, because making it work, serving your customers, making sure that everyone in the universe of the institution, which was 428 branches at the time, that it was same level of service across board. Customers of standard trust bank that were used to a certain level of service delivery, you will not want them to come to the new institution and have a drop.
From the womb of time, Tony Elumelu has been an embodiment of nobility and excellence. He remains one of the flying eagles and shining heads of the banking industry. The life and times of Tony is an inspiring tale. He is one Nigeria who is unmoved by material wealth and self-aggrandizement. Tony's noble qualities were on from his humble background. Growing up with 4 siblings in Jos Plateau State, the cowboy of the banking industry who hails from Anocha North local government area of Delta State, believed in the democratization of law combined with hard work. He began his career as a copier salesman. The Ambrose Ali University graduate of economics also bagged a master's degree in economics from the University of Lagos. In 2019, he received an honorary Doctor of Business degree from Bayero University, Kano.
Going to university, I just thought I wanted to be a businessman because my mom's brother My mom and his brother were just two of them. So my uncle was a businessman, in Nigeria, and was quite successful at the time. And I was influenced. I thought he was very rich, and also I wanted to be a businessman, but not knowing whether just a businessman, you know what I mean? Because he was described then as a businessman. And but in university, that was why I read economics, just to see. But in university, I got more enlightened because I knew more how things operated. And first degree, I was saying I just wanted a good job that would give me the start. But when I came to do my master's at Unilag, being in urban or Unilag, a lot happening at the time. And that was the era of new generation banks, a lot happening. Our friends, in banking, our friends, some got jobs in some banks. And so that's all of us who were doing masters at the time. I did masters in economics. Who were doing masters at the time, we just became interested and fascinated. We were interested in working in a bank. New generation bank, not old generation bank, not. And so that was how it all started. And we started applying for jobs in our banks. And I got, yes, at the master's level, it was clear I wanted to work in a bank. And yes, that was starting. As in then, Santana was a posh guy. So they oppressed us in school, I must say. And then we too wanted to become the big boys in future with the blue shoes, suspenders, white shirt, dark suits, etc.
The growth and development of any institution is determined by the quality of its leadership. For Tony Elumelu, his sterling performance and leadership scorecard in the banking industry remains a reference point. He rose quickly to become the youngest bank branch manager at Allstate Trust Bank at the age of 36. He formed a coalition to acquire a distressed financial institution, Crystal Bank, and became its CEO, an action that earned him and his circle of peers the nickname the Cowboys of banking.
In 1997, some of us came together and acquired a distressed financial institution. We acquired this financial institution, we turned it around, we set targets for ourselves, strategic plans. That's targets, if you have first year strategic intent, we want to make it a viable financial services company. Second tier intent, we want to become a leading financial services group on the continent. And third financial intent, strategic intent to become a player in the global financial arena. As we all know, there's so much private global capital seeking the right investment destination. All it takes is for a leadership to show that this country is set for business and people come there. We want to move into an economy where they can invest freely as well as move their monies out when it comes for time for dividend and remittances and repatriation of a dividend. So I will continue to invest because of the signal that we see in the market, because of certain fundamentals that are right.
He audaciously led the largest merger in Africa between United Bank of Africa and Standard Trust Bank. Tony's fancy for red tie remains emblem of his appearance. He retired as CEO of United Bank for Africa in 2010. He is presently the chairman of Heirs Holdings, the United Bank for Africa, Transcorp, and founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
I can't express how excited I am in words to be here and to be selected among the 1,000.
It's the opportunity for me to realize my dreams. So I go into business and start to make my way.
It challenges you to do things you never thought you could do.
Maybe if you'd have gone to a private school or an MBA, you must have paid a lot to get this kind of, enlightenment.
Ça me fait plaisir de voir des frères et sœurs qui veulent se rencontrer, se connaître, les partager et créer un réseau, peut-être le plus grand réseau africain.
Venho de Cabo Verde.
Je suis tunisien.
Je viens de la République du Bénin.
I'm from Edo State, Nigeria.
I'm from Ghana.
Zimbabwe.
Sudan.
From Rwanda. Gabon.
Uganda.
Senegal.
Niger. I'm from the Gambia.
Welcome and thank you for coming to Lagos. I'd like to start by congratulating all of you
You have done well.
Most entrepreneurs are creative people. They have creative mindset. They're innovative. Those who dare to dream and who dare to innovate in Africa should have the opportunity to prove their innovation. And that is why we have $10,000 for these 10,000 Africans to help prove their concept and prepare them for bigger scale financial support. We don't give because we see it as a moral burden to just give charity. But we want to give people because we want to uplift them. We want them to be self-reliant. We want them to be fishermen. We want them to do what we are doing. We want them to...
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Quickie. I am Olumide Sequoia. Let's take you around the world in 2 minutes. Here's what's moving money, markets, and power today. We begin at home, where remittances are now under tighter watch. The Central Bank of Nigeria has directed international money transfer operators to open Naira settlement accounts with authorized banks. What does that mean? More transparency, closer monitoring, and a stronger grip on how diaspora dollars flow into the economy. Now to the markets, where the Naira is showing signs of pressure. It slipped slightly to 1,383.5 Naira to the dollar as external reserves continue to decline. The mood? Cautious. Investors are watching global signals, and Nigeria's buffers are thinning. Still in Nigeria, power remains the big question. The federal government says it will take over $100 billion to deliver stable, round-the-clock electricity. That's not just the number, it's the price tag on fixing one of Nigeria's biggest economic bottlenecks. Across Africa, Kenya is making a strategic move. It has finalized a trade deal with China, granting duty-free access to 98% of its exports. In simple terms, Kenyan goods now get a smoother path into one of the world's largest markets. In Asia, tensions are shaping strategy. Taiwan is raising concerns that China could take advantage of U.S. focus on the Middle East. There are also growing questions about the reliability of American military support and what that could mean for regional security. And finally to the UK, where inflation is holding steady for now. Consumer prices remained at 3% in February, but there's a twist. Rising oil prices, driven by Middle East tensions, could push that number higher in the coming months. And that's your global snapshot in minutes. Stay sharp, stay informed. Stay tuned for more updates on SOUQ Quickie. I am Olumide Sequoia.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ifeyonwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news, first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching.
SOUQ News.
For years, uncomplimentary features including obsolete books, lack of power supply, leaking roofs, and sparse library infrastructure have become an integral feature of public libraries. Visits to some of these facilities, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, indicate a litany of pathetic public libraries. Attempts by governments to turn things around have been weak and sometimes non-existent. Expectedly, the impact of this on learning is telling. This is the basis of today's news talk, which focuses on public libraries. An American writer, Sidney Sheldon, once said that libraries store the energy that funds imagination. He added that libraries open up windows to the world and inspire us to explore and achieve and contribute to improving our quality of life. For many years, many young Nigerians have failed to improve the quality of their lives by expanding their knowledge or nurturing their latent reading skills, hence leave most parts of their lives in doubt, contrary to the advice by British novelist and screenwriter J.K. Rowling, who said, "When in doubt, go to the library." Public libraries play a crucial role in a country's educational system by providing free access to a wealth of information and resources through offering a diverse range of books, journals, and digital resources that are essential for learning and research. They serve as a repository of knowledge accessible to everyone, regardless of socio-economic status, in addition to supporting lifelong learning by providing resources for all age groups. Their role in promoting literacy by offering reading programs, story hours, and access to books for young readers is very crucial for early childhood education and developing a reading culture. It is in light of this that the declining state of public libraries and poor management of the existing one, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, are posing concern to critical shareholders. These concerns are there because of the overreaching effect on the standard of education in the two states, Oyo and Lagos. Most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan share similar attributes. They range from old buildings with leaking roofs, obsolete books, empty shelves, disused tables and chairs, uncomfortable ambience, and overgrown shrubs. Also, while the world is migrating electrically and libraries digitalized to bring them up to speed and make them fit for purpose in contemporary times, most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan are without electricity and manually driven. With fond memories of borrowing books to read in Lagos and returning them to the library in the full care of the other students after digesting their contents, Mrs. Felicia Adeniyi is pained that many years after, school children are no longer enjoying such opportunities because of what public libraries have become. For starters, most of the libraries in Lagos State belonging to the state government are in a ruinous state. In its wisdom, the Lagos State government some years ago has turned the age-long library on Broad Street into a drug laboratory or whatever. This reporter used to use the library in the 60s, 70s, and 80s before the politicians decided to change their minds. In Oyo State, the surrounding of the Oyo State Library Board at Dugbe in Ibadan betrays what a reading environment should look like. Inside the facility is equally disheartening. Additionally, makeshift shanties cluster the precincts of the library, making it difficult for visitors to recognize its presence. Random samplings carried out among students revealed a worrying situation. While many of them hardly know where the public libraries are located, some don't even know that public libraries exist. This perhaps explains why the standard of education in the state is on the decline. The reference section, located on the first floor, is lightly deserted, with only one patron present apart from the staff. The shelves are filled with old, dusty books, revealing lack of maintenance and updates. Public libraries in Ogun State are also a worrisome sight. Users no longer patronize the state library. One of the major factors causing this is because the libraries are not digitalized and facilities are in a poor state. When the director of the Lagos State Library Service, Oyadipe Ashimiyu Amao, asserted that the state libraries had been standardized and are offering quality services, one can't help but wonder the cause of the growing apathy among residents so far as the use of public libraries is concerned. But the answer is not far-fetched, as some of the existing 13 libraries that exist in Lagos State have not been developed to the expected standard. Amao had recently, at a function organized by the State Library Service held for secondary students, claimed that the state libraries offered a conducive environment for libraries. But when SOUQ News visited Ikeja's Secretariat Library, the National Libraries on Abamakoli Way, Butemeta, the conditions of these libraries were against the assertions made by Amao. It is completely against what the gentleman had told the public. While the National Library opens at 8:30 a.m., library users they insist that the discomfort they experience there is a discouraging factor which they have continued to bear because of the little or no choice that they have. One of the library users said that they often come to the library with their hand fans due to the lack of electricity, and when there is power supply, the air conditioners and fans may not be working. Is this what we need in the center of excellence? Let us in Lagos declare a state of emergency on public libraries because the reading culture is gradually vanishing right under our nose. My name is Bayo Olaoye.
My name is Becky Elijah. I'm from UBA, so keep watching SOUQ News.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel. Keep watching SOUQ News.
Esther Ashimi, keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Helen Otongwa. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Okoyemi Temiyemi. I am an entertainer. I am representing Egypt, as you can see. So keep watching SOUQ News.
Hi, my name is Nena Okavi. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Tom Aldo. Keep watching SOUQ News.
I'm Elizabeth from POS Services UBA. Keep watching SOUQ News.
Hi, my name is Kelechi Agu. Keep watching SOUQ News.
Welcome to Cashcraft, where opportunities meet insight. Today, we're journeying into the field of prosperity where towering oil palms wave not just leaves, but the promise of wealth. From the humid groves of Edo to the rich red earth of Delta, a quiet boom is unfolding. Though has been there for many years, but we could take advantage of this. This is one opportunity that holds the key to food security, foreign exchange savings, and thousands of jobs. Yes, we're talking about palm oil, Africa's red gold. But how do you tap into this opportunity? What does it take to build a business around palm oil, from plantation to profit? Let's break it down, step by step. 1. Understand the landscape. The first step is knowledge. Nigeria's oil palm production has risen by over 41% in the past decades, from 8.2 million metric tons in 2014 to 11.6 million in 2023, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Yet, with over 200 million mouths to feed and rising global demand, we are still importing palm oil to close the gap. That's your opportunity to become a local producer or processor. Step 2, choose your entry point. There are 3 main ways to enter into the palm oil value chain. Palm plantation farming. Cultivating your own palm trees is long-term but rewarding. Now you can look at processing. Buying palm fruits, popularly known as banga, I'm sure you know that, and converting it into oil with machines. That's another one. And trading. You can buy and sell finished oil in local or export markets. Each has different startup costs and time frames, so you must match your capital, patience, and passion. Before I go further, remember that this is not a professional guide, rather a wake-up call that there are opportunities everywhere. Now let's go to step 3. Get land or source supply. According to research, some initiatives like the Edo Oil Palm Development Program, EOPDP, and Delta State Delcom Scheme are making access to land to become easier. Findings shows that in Edo State, over 114,000 hectares have been allocated to both big and small investors, and over 65,000 hectares have already been accessed. In Delta, 130,000 hectares have been provided by communities under a cooperative model, with over 3,000 smallholders farmers already on board. Even if you can't own land, you can start small by sourcing fruit from cooperatives or leasing a small processing space. Of course you can. Now let's move to 4. Know the cost and time frame. It costs between $7,000 to $8,000 to cultivate 1 hectare of palm from nursery to maturity. But it takes about 3 to 4 years for the trees to start yielding. If you want quick returns, processing and trading may be better. You can buy a small-scale palm oil milling machines for 1.5 million to 3 million naira, or even less if you join a cooperative or lease. So let's go to step 5. Invest in knowledge and market access. Join farmer cooperatives like those in Delcom. They give access to training, markets, and funding. You can also link up with established companies like Presco and Okomo Oil. Yeah? I'm not marketing, but it's a way to tell you that, look, there are opportunities everywhere. All of these are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Step 6, think sustainability and value addition. Palm oil is not just for stew and soup. Yeah, think big. You can produce refined oil, cosmetics, biodiesel, and export-grade products. Investors are already joining this, and governments are backing it. You can do your research. There is also growing interest in eco-friendly farming and traceable supply chains. If you do it right, foreign buyers will come looking. Palm oil may have its controversies, but in Africa, especially in Nigeria, it is heritage, it is economy, it is future. The rise of Edo and Delta as palm oil giants is not just about hectares or harvest. It is about people, creating jobs, reducing imports, and saving foreign exchange. If you are looking for a business with cheap roots and wide branches, palm oil may just be your calling. This has been Cashcraft, your guide to turning ideas into income. I am Grace Komalafe. Join us again next time, and remember, the ground beneath your feet might be your next big break. See you again.
Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to watch, always watch SOUQ News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching SOUQ News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, SOUQ News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching SOUQ News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
I was in Nigeria up until SS1 third term, SS2, and after that I moved to France where I did my A-levels, and then after that I moved to England where I did my undergrad, and then my master's I did in America. And European culture is European culture, right? For me, it's actually quite interesting because I learned so much more about Africa outside Africa, right? Because in the education I had in secondary school, there wasn't really much focus on our history or the greatness that Africa was. It almost seemed more like propaganda history, that our history pretty much just started slightly before colonization, and everything else we've become is either our journey to independence and carrying on the system that we're left with, right? Unfortunately, schooling abroad brought this Afrocentric idea into my consciousness. Books about researchers that showed our history that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, Timbuktu, the great empire of Mali, learn about people like Mansa Musa, connecting migrations from what is present-day Nigeria in the southwest up until the Nile Valley, and the different movements, migration patterns that happen between those two civilizations, right? Aside that, governance, giving one a higher expectation of what one should expect from government, giving one a higher expectation of what democracy should be or what it should look like, because you can't really operate outside of what you've been exposed to. You know, when the mind has been expanded, it cannot go back to its former size, right? And experiencing what quality education is like, experiencing what good governance is like, experiencing a health system that works, a health system that is checking on people before they get sick, because they know that on the long run, that will keep the cost of healthcare coverage lower. Preventative medicine as opposed to constantly solving problems as they're happening. Understanding the value of data-driven policy, and how all these come together to create a system that works and that people can thrive in. Understanding the value of people paying taxes, right? And the services they get in return of those taxes. I think these are some of the things that I got from my exposure schooling abroad. And then when I moved back to Nigeria, I did my NYSC. And then I started working. I worked in some architecture firms while also running mine and getting some projects. And then went into business. And then when I wanted to go into politics, after leading a GMO campaign alongside other notable patriotic Nigerians, I decided that, experiencing leading a 2,000-man march on the Senate and understanding how they responded to us, which in my opinion did not show people that actually prioritize the well-being of their people, I felt that it's important to go into politics. Okay, so I ran for student council president in high school and won. So politics that way, yeah, you can say since I was 19, having an idea, having a manifesto and selling that idea, understanding problems and proffering solutions and implementation strategies. Yeah, so I can say 18, 19. When I came back and after the GMO, for those that don't know, genetic modified foods, we led a 2-year campaign against the Ministry of Agriculture that was chaired at the time by Akinwumi Adesina to prevent the adoption of genetic modified foods in Nigeria. And that process, engaging politicians and our representatives, I felt that Nigerians deserve better. And I'm not one to just complain and point fingers or tweet on social media. I believe if you engage in something, you need to see it all the way. So I ran for local government chairman. But before that, I actually went to UNILAG and got a master's in research and public policy. Now, I had some very brilliant professors, without a doubt, some very, very brilliant professors. People like Professor Jikutu, people like Professor Logbenla, Onoha, a number of very brilliant people. But at the same time, in relation to the level of organization, there's still a way to go, And I think this also comes down to funding our universities properly, ensuring that our professors are well paid, ensuring that we have enough professors, because a lot of our professors, they are taking so many classes with so many students and they have to bring in their A game to all of these things. We need to prioritize education a lot more in this country, Nigerians are some of the most brilliant human beings in this world. Brilliant, and I'm talking, I just named 3 different countries that have operated in terms of education. And then there are some other 4 countries that I've done work in and I currently have interest in. And Nigerians are there and they are doing wonderful things, right? So we're an intelligent group of people. What we need are the structures and organization that create an enabling environment for us to thrive. I mean, think about what it takes to be successful in this country today. Think about what it takes to be successful in Lagos. Now, imagine a government that puts everything in place and is more like a partner than, this person that's just trying to take from me, right? You would experience an exponential increase in wealth. I think that a person that values education must have had a very good education. If you don't value education, it's a reflection of your own education. I can't think of somebody that's experienced good education that will not prioritize education, because you will know the power of education. And this goes to show when we talk about how it's okay for someone with a NEPA certificate to be our president, and we see the ruin that it brought Nigeria to, or a person that's using lawyers to hide the certificates, right? It will reflect in the quality of your education. So I feel that we need to start demanding more from people that aspire to lead us. Go and look at the quality of education that the leaders of America got. They either went to Yale or Harvard or recently Princeton, Ivy League schools. The top of us have to lead. This idea that you can just pick anybody to lead you to where? This person is like this with you. Where is he leading you to? What vision is this person bringing that is outstanding? Your leader should be outstanding. He cannot be, or she cannot be part of the flock. You understand? They must be outstanding, either in their strength of character. So you look at America when they want to select their president, George Washington. Why? Because when there was war, the man stood in front. He was a leader. Intelligence, he was a leader. These were people that were inventors. Benjamin Franklin. These were people that were inventing things. They were not just thought leaders. They were on ground. They were policy leaders. They were kings in their own right. It was not a commoner. And I don't mean commoner in the sense of money. You see, people think it's just about money. No, it's about what are your values? What are you willing to stand for? What do you stand for? Right? If the wind blows, you just move to the place that favors your pocket. You clearly don't have a backbone. So how can you lead? And people will say, okay, they just want somebody that they can associate with. Yes, but associate with in what way? In poverty and failure and mediocrity, or in success and a vision that will benefit you, your family, and your children, and the greater society, right? Because if you think about it, I say this thing in most interviews I do. My father tells me that his father told him that Nigeria was better in his day. My father told me Nigeria was better in his day. My father graduated, there were jobs, you could get a car. Like, only the man had to work, the wife could be a housewife, and they were comfortable. They did not need to steal, to travel, to go on holiday. Right? He came into that. Quality education. There was public education. Right? His father was a judge. His father's driver would send his child to the same school as his boss's son. And he got quality education. Now, I can tell my children that I remember a time when Nigeria was better. When I would change 1 million naira and get 4,000 pounds. I can barely get 1 million naira now with 500 pounds. Do you understand? So it's perpetually in a nosedive. And why is that? Lack of continuity in quality leadership and visionary leadership, right? No leader that is truly focused on creating a Nigerian identity that celebrates our uniqueness and our differences and sees that as a resource as opposed to something that divides us, right? People that are traveling to the UAE, they are going there to enjoy the culture. And this culture is old, it's ancient, but they've repackaged it. That makes people want to come and visit, want to come and spend their hard-earned money there, right? And this is the visionary type of ideas I'm talking about that will create jobs, right? Well, you know, it's a very interesting one. I grew up in a Nigeria where I went to ISL, and speaking traditional languages was called, there's a word for it, starts with C, not vernacular, there was something else. There's another word, it starts with a C. You could not do that. It was against the school rules, right? And you get punished for that. And then even at the time, there was this whole idea of this person, this is local. Like young people, I remember young people saying that is local. The people were not interested with identifying with Nigerian music. Then it was hip hop, it was about Biggie, Puff Daddy, you know, international music. I'm sure I'm betraying my age now. Well, my age is not 80 now, 42. But I'm talking about the time where nobody was wearing trad. We grew up seeing our parents wearing suits, trousers and shirts, you know. And like I said, I don't feel that the education that we got in Nigeria really laid any foundation for you to look deeper into our history, into our culture. And I know this now because I've experienced education elsewhere. And I know how the British lay emphasis on their history. So that even if you're an art student or a science student, you had an in-depth knowledge of the history of your people. And this history is not just a linear one. It's one that is connecting different events and moments and always trying to show your people to be great, right? So you see the British will hide the idea of the part they played in slavery and enslavement. It will not be prominent in the history, but where they conquered or where they uprooted slavery from the African continent, the role they played in doing that will be highlighted, right? That is curated. Now you might say that's not right, it's not fair, but they're programming their citizenry. And that is what a thinking government will prioritize. Same thing with America, right? So I don't really feel we had that in our education system. But then there was an Afrocentric awakening that happened later on. And this had also happened earlier. The kind of thinking that informed people like Nnamdi Azikiwe when he traveled to America, the kind of thinking that informed Fela Anikulapo Kuti when he traveled to America, or even to England, where he met Afro-British people that knew the histories of Africa, that awoken that idea in him, in Fela, in Nnamdi Azikiwe, in a number of Africans, in Kwame Nkrumah, right? They didn't get it at home, they got it elsewhere, and they came and they brought that, we are African, we are great, black is beautiful, you know? And when you open that doorway, it then starts to lead you into understanding your culture more, understanding the depth of it, you see? And it's not our fault, right? We were conquered, our kings were removed, at least the kings that had the courage to fight, they were removed, they were exiled, some were killed, our people were kidnapped with the collaboration of some Africans. Our people were kidnapped and sold. Some of the strongest men were kidnapped and sold. So you have diaspora cousins and everybody outside of the country, the few that were saved, you know, were brought back. But you now had a situation of religion. And unfortunately, the religion that came through in partnership with colonization pretty much said to us that everything that we were before them was bad, was evil, was demonic. So you have a people that claim that they are from a certain tribe, speak the language, but the depth of the thinking they associate with being evil. So there's still a significant level of identity crisis that we struggle with. And you don't really see that with Indians who were colonized by the British. You don't really see it with the Chinese who also dealt with their own level of colonization, nor the Japanese, right? And you see, understanding your identity or crafting your identity as a people, because China, as we're seeing it today, was not just monolithic. It was not just one group of people. There are huge, different groups of people all over China, different tribes, but they were united by a visionary king. Similar thing happened in Japan, right? Similar thing happened in England, right? In England, you had part in what you call England, or what was Great Britain or England at the point. You had the Welsh, you had the Scottish, you had the Irish, right? You know, and they were united at the point by a conqueror, right? So sometimes you also craft identity. Sometimes identity is created by facing a threat that is bigger than all of you independently. So you have to come together to face that. And sometimes it's just visionary leadership, right? You see visionary leadership in Singapore with Lee Kuan Yew. We saw that creates an identity that you can be proud of. Like there is no China man now, or even if there will be very few that will not be proud of China and not want to be associated with the bigger identity of China as opposed to their identity as a tribe, because China is so great. and it pays you to be associated with it. It is when there's a failure in that bigger identity that people recoil back to their smaller identity, right? And that's what you find going on in a lot of places. But all in all, yeah. I think the government, you see, what has happened is because we've had governments or politicians that don't really have a vision to sell, they rely on selling division. Because the classic divide and rule strategy. If you have a vision, you want to sell a vision and unite people. Visions unite people, right? So you sell a vision, so people unite behind the vision. When you don't have a vision, so you sell division so that people can be separated. When you separate people, it's easier to rule over them. And you see that has happened significantly from the last election, right? And you then see in how the government has ruled this country. Significant nepotism, significant levels of corruption, significant levels of lack of transparency or accountability. You see that the government is very extractive without really paying any attention to being accountable to the people they want to extract from. You see that they talk about stopping subsidy payments. And there was a hope that those monies that would have otherwise been used for subsidies would have been put to make life easier for the Nigerian. Life is not easier for the Nigerian. Inflation rates are at an all-time high, right? Insecurity is at an all-time high. For the first time in decades, we're having a foreign country bombing our land, our territory, which is an indictment on the failure of our security system. And you think about how much money is spent on these things, on our army, on our military that goes unaccounted for. And you see how corruption is rewarded by ambassadorial appointments. You know, so there's a lot of politicking as opposed to governance. And it is in quality governance, creating excellence in governance, where you are moving away from personalities to institutions. And people are now normalizing an excellent standard of service, right? So it's no more about the personality, it's about the quality of governance. Once that starts to be ticked, right, people will start to embrace the idea of Nigeria. When Nigeria is playing football, nobody is saying that that man is from this tribe, this person is from this tribe, especially if we are doing well. Everybody wants to be associated with that greatness that is Nigeria. When I finished school, I'm telling you, I went to a school where you did not have to leave the school to get the best jobs. Those companies came to do interview on campus. And I'm saying that myself and all my friends that were Nigerian were rushing to move back to Nigeria. It's not that we did not have the jobs or the potential jobs. We were so excited about Nigeria at the time under President Obasanjo, what he had achieved, the quality of his governance, the quality of his ministers, that there was a significant fear of missing out. And so many people, and I tell this to young people today, that there was a time where people were rushing back from countries like America, from England, and they can't imagine it, you know? So it's about creating good governance, creating excellence in governance. And everybody wants to be associated with success and greatness. There was a time where we had governments that were very empathetic to the common man. They were welfarist to an extent. Governments like Alhaji Lateef Jakonde. And that was really the ideology of Obafemi Awolowo. It was very welfarist. So civil servants did not have to hustle for housing. They had quality housing in prime areas. Affordable housing was a priority. It was prioritizing the people that were the middle class, that were the working class. That is the role of government. But you find that now government is more fixated on producing properties or being involved in properties for the rich. Whether it is how they are allocating land, whether it is in how they are sand filling. I mean, how many Nigerians can afford to live at Eco Atlantic? I read this year where they were proudly talking about how they are sand filling and reclaiming land in some parts of Lagos for housing. By the time you've done all of that, your unit cost will be so significant that no average person will be able to afford to live there. Meanwhile, we have huge tracts of land in Ojo, Amuwo, Badagry, Ikorodu, Ekpe, Ibeju-Lekki that we can channel proper urban planning, bring in industries there, and focus on creating infrastructure that makes people want to live there. And then creating local governments that are independent in themselves. So most of the major services you need are in there. So nobody's going from Ikeja to Yaba for school. These are things that cause traffic. It's like the boroughs in London. You cannot even get into a borough outside of where you pay your council tax. Why? Because your taxes are used to fund the schools in that community. So it's a direct correlation. So your child can get into schools in the immediate vicinity of where you live. And that local council is doing their best to create affordable housing, council flat, and unemployment benefits, things like that, from the taxes. You understand? And that's what is missing significantly here. You've talked about flooding. Flooding is tied to our drainage systems and it's tied to our waste disposal systems and waste management systems, right? That in itself is also tied to the traffic that we have, especially in rainy season. It's also tied to traffic outside of rainy season because if your water is not draining properly, it's destroying your roads. That's how we then get potholes. That also causes traffic. That also spoils cars, which then leads to cars breaking down the road, which then leads to traffic. So it's an entire holistic system that must be solved in a holistic way. And there's a famous saying that you can never solve a problem from the same headspace or mindset in which that problem was created. You must step out of it to solve that problem. So this problem must be solved in a holistic way. Why are our gutters still open? All these our elites, they're not even elite. Our politicians, our political leaders, they travel abroad. Shibe, our president, has gone to, I think he's gone somewhere to Europe and then the Middle East. I'm sure he's not seeing open gutters when he goes to Dubai, right, or England or France, right? I'm sure he knows of the proper draining systems in these places, right? So we need to do better as a people. I even think it's wrong to use Lagos as a mirror. You cannot compare Lagos to any other state in this country. Lagos, first, was a water-facing arm for the Benin Empire at a point, which was very powerful at a point. It was, aside from the Awori and children of Olofin that came and settled it, the monarchy was from Benin. And it was a water-facing arm of the Benin Empire. Then Lagos then received all the influx of Europeans that came in for colonization. Lagos was the port in which Nigeria was formed. There was a time where all politics in Nigeria happened in Lagos. Everybody from all over came to Lagos. Think about the level of exposure. Think about the level of development from back then. Think about the level of commerce, level of finance from back then. Then you now had influx of returnees that had either paid for their freedom or people that were saved, that were never enslaved and got education in Sierra Leone because that was where the first secondary school was and came back. I'm talking about people like Samajai Crowder, grandfather of Herbert Macaulay, Henry Carr, H.O. Davis, and so many others that literally laid the foundation for the freedom and independence that we then got later on. Think about the intellectual capital that came in here. Think about all the skill sets that came into Lagos, the buildings that were built, the level of development, the amount of resource that came into Lagos with that. Then after that, Lagos then became this capital. Think about all the investments that came with that, all the infrastructure that was created by the Nigerian state before it now relocated to Abuja. And then today, Lagos is now the commercial capital. Most companies that exist in this country have their headquarters here. So it's extremely unfair to compare. Lagos State it's like that child that has been blessed and blessed and blessed. You know, it's like all the other children were on the farm and all the prophets were just coming and blessing and blessing and blessing. It's not fair to compare Lagos to any other state. It cannot be compared. But yes, that's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the extreme need for infrastructure, right? Which, I mean, we have huge IGR because of the human beings that are here. So those money should be put into creating infrastructure for them to have a beautiful quality of life, to be more productive, to be able to earn more, which would then increase the IGR that Lagos generates, right? You know, so it's all tied into each other. Well, first of all, it's not a thing that's unique to me. You know, the APC Lagos especially, the APC Lagos arm of politics is bigotry. It is based on bigotry. I mean, there's still pictures of banners that were hung of Jimmy Agbaje being called Jimmy Chukwu, governor of the Southeast. He's a man that is blue blood from Ikorodu. We know his grandfather. We know his antecedents. We know what he did. This is not somebody that his history or his pedigree or his name or his age or his sex is under question or under any kind of controversy. We know him. We know his grandfather. We know his father. We know his family. Right? And this is what they did. So anybody that seemingly rises to challenge the Tinubu hegemony, the first thing that is challenged is your Yorubaness. Right? I remember when they were saying that even somebody like Padi Banjo, the reason why he supported Peter Obi or was anti-Tinubu was because his mother was Igbo. Or they said Obasanjo's father is this. Anytime somebody challenges the Tinubu hegemony, they attack your identity. They try to strip you of your Yorubaness. In my situation, unfortunately for them, they could not challenge my family. They could not challenge our history. There are all sorts of nonsense. But I give God the glory that my parents are alive. You know, I give God the glory that my family has a very good habit of keeping records, all the way to newspaper articles from the 1800s. So imagine if one did not have that. Imagine if one's parents were not alive and these people just came together with this propaganda. You start questioning, what's really going on? But I thank God, I come from a family that history has written a lot about, you know, so we know who we are. And as Lagosians, Amorawa, we know ourselves. Because one is in politics now, there are a lot more things that people are saying about me. But I've been Afrocentric for a very long time. All you need to do is go and read my blogs. I still have a blog under if you search for it, The Hopeful Nigerian. And I've been advocating for history to return back to our schools, our traditions, our culture. The idea that, no, not everything that existed before the Rainbow Man came here was bad. Right? There's bad in everything. There are people that call themselves Muslims that are killing people. There are people that were calling themselves Christian, that were doing crusades and massacring people. I mean, for goodness sake, the first slave ship that came to Nigeria, to Africa, was called Jesus. The Pope blessed people that were going to go and kill indigenous people all over the world. So there are good and bad people in every culture, in every belief system, right? And this idea that everything that we were before Christianity or any of the major religions means that we are bad. I've been against that for decades, right? And that's not common. That's not common in this part of the world. And I know the backlash that I got for that, but I'm somebody that fortunately I can afford to live my truth, you know? I can afford to do that. So what you saw is just me on my journey. A lot has been consistent. It's just now, it is obvious. People are seeing it, it's in people's faces. And I'm coming of age, I'm growing, you know. My first title was the Obalefon of Lagos that I got from the Obatala Temple in Ife, right? And that ties into my belief system that, you know, there is an African spiritual science, right? The entire binary code in which we build our computers is based on African traditional science, right? The understanding of time not being linear, but being circular and intertwining, right? These are things that quantum physics is proving, right? So you find that we have known things from time that science, Western science, is just interpreting and bringing to common knowledge now, right? And that is something that I will grow in. And you know, as some will say, your head calls certain things to you. You know, so that title is something that I embrace because, you know, it's something that I've understood and it's something I value. It's very important to me. And then also I am the Are of Igbale Koka, which is the house that was headed by Justice Koka. He was the Oloriayo at a point, and Baba Isale of Lagos. So those are the titles that I have, that I got recently. As relates to Yoruba titles, I also have an Igbo title, Ochiaga of Ndibo in Lagos State. Aside that, I was initiated into the Awe Adimu, and as a son of Lagos, you know, these are things that we hold very dear to us. I mean, you've been around my house, I'm sure you've seen plenty of your paintings. And if you go into any indigenous house, most of them, you see something Eyo. It'll just be there, right? Either it's the Okpambata and the hat, or a sculpture, or something, because it symbolizes our heritage, our ancestral heritage, our ancestral culture. It's our day to show, you know, who we are as a people, because Lagos, like I said, is a cosmopolitan port, so sometimes our identity gets lost, and there are always different groups that, you know, it's almost like when you talk about the history of Lagos, it's somehow covered by the history of Nigeria, because so much of the history of Nigeria happened in Lagos. But we have our own history, a very rich history, with a lot of intrigues, right? And your festival is for Lagos Island, a way of showing our uniqueness, our heritage, our culture. And that is not to say that it's only limited to Lagos Island. You know, we have brothers that are coming Ikorodu, coming from Ekpe, coming from Badagry, and then all of these places also have their own rich culture and heritage. Like the Zangbeto Festival in Badagry is amazing. I cannot wait for it to be properly mainstream, for the government to actually bring it into mainstream culture. You also have the masquerades in Ekpe and Ikorodu, masquerades all over the mainland, you know, all that Ikejai, Fakojai area, they have that culture there as well. These things need to be mainstreamed. They need to be brought into and repackaged, right? The tradition itself, the masquerades, the pageantry is beautiful, it's perfect. It's now the environment at which it operates, right? We need to create the environment that will pull tourists in, make them feel safe, make them feel comfortable, clean environments, right? That can now create these things with world renowned cultural experiences that people fly in because they want to come and see. Think about the Brazilian carnival, right? You know, I mean, yeah, things like that. We want people to fly in because this is how you generate income for those communities and, you know, also puts us on that world map. 2025 was a very difficult year for a lot of people. I mean, 2024 was difficult because that was the first shock. But 2025 has not been easy at all. A lot of companies have laid off staff, right? Things are extremely expensive. Go and ask anybody that's about to pay their rent. They've seen their rents double. People that rented a place for 3 million are now looking at paying 8 million, right? People that got a place for 500,000 are now looking at 1.5, right? I have to acknowledge that there is a new bill that's passed in the State Assembly that is pushing for monthly payments of salaries that's protecting tenants, and I think that's a very, very good thing. Implementation of it, our laws are not the problem, it's the implementation of it.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch SOUQ News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Boggaballs, and please keep watching SOUQ News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, SOUQ News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria and you're watching SOUQ News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
In 1957, just a greenhorn leaving school and looking for a job, going into broadcasting was something that I dreamt of. But that's only meant going into radio, because my old school, Holy Child College, still on the same site in Obalende, 2 streets away from the old NBC. I still can't forgive whoever changed the name to something else that is being called now FRCN. Because if the BBC remains BBC 100 years after the founding fathers, dreamt of starting television, radio from, all the war years, learning a bit from America. It all started from America. Because we were taught about all this. Every time they took us from school to take part in, school's debates on radio, we just walked across. It's all in Obalende and Ikoyi, Balende/Ikoyi. So I dreamt of doing something along the line. And then one of my teachers left us high and dry. He went to be a news reader on radio. Marie Tabio, who later became Mrs. Irikefe. Then we had people like Tung Adedoyin and SOUQ. We used to listen to them on radio on the old, you wouldn't know anything about that now, the rediffusion. It was just, a little box in your home, and everybody looked forward to either listening to the 7 o'clock news in the morning or 6 o'clock or 7 in the evening. So that was all I had to do with broadcasting. And who was going to take me there was another matter altogether. Who would take you little 16, 17-year-old girl into broadcasting. But one had been bitten by the bug then. So, and only God knows where whatever dream you had was going to lead to. We read poetry, we did radio show, stage shows in school. Catholic schools were very good for that. And my old school, just celebrating 150 years of its existence, just down the road from here on Broad Street. The nuns, they were all white nuns. No Nigerian nuns at the time that we were growing up. So all the dream they had, this kind of dream that we have now, going to England, but they were coming here to teach us. So I had learnt a lot of poetry. I had taken part in Festival of Arts, and I had gone to the biggest hall we had then was at King's College, which is also down the road. Means of transportation was your SS foot. No BRT, no bicycles or whatever. So we did it all just walking around and learning from our teachers. And of course, our mentors were the nuns, like I said. So in my wildest dream, there was no way that I was thinking of going into anything like broadcasting. That is going back to answer your question. But they had a lot of plans for the girl child. And not along the religious lines now, but actually they came to actually engender this whole idea of pushing the girl child forward. And not just me, a lot of us, people like Mrs. Francesca Emmanuel, they also went through the whole gamut of all this dream that I'm talking about. Television itself was brand new in the world. I have to talk about radio because that was what I knew as a child. But television, when it started, we didn't even know. Maybe in America, and then it went to Australia, and then to France. No. France came after Nigeria. You wouldn't believe that, would you? That we were number 6. America, Britain, Germany, Australia, one other country, and coming now home to Nigeria, where you cannot help but give a lot of credit to the dreams of people like late Chief Obafemi Awolowo and one of his ministers then, Chief Anthony Enahoro. So that's how I believe this whole package was placed on their laps and sold to Nigeria, to the Western Nigeria government. On the radar were lots of other people like me who had dreams about becoming Miss Nigeria. So maybe that will now give you a little background about how I took part in the Miss Nigeria pageant, Western Nigeria, and I became Miss Western Nigeria. Somebody must have fine-tuned some little knots somewhere and said, okay, you probably might be able to deliver. Because you are being interviewed when you go before the panel of judges. And somebody must have said, okay, that's a good material, you can come and take part in this. Before then, we had other people, Anike Agbaje Williams, Poliola Sokwe, who were working on radio. My dream was to work in radio, but then I missed that. And I was nursing, that dream of still going to radio. Never knew what television was all about. So maybe that answers your question, I'm not sure. But I took part in the Miss Western Nigeria pageant and I won. Took part in the Miss Nigeria contest and came second. So that meant that I didn't win. And if one of the, maybe the prize was to go on TV, it wasn't even there. It wasn't written into the, program that whoever did this, but the person was going to go to England. And so Helena Yemeluna, who won that contest, went to London and fulfilled her own dream. But I was still biting my nails, waiting for when I'll be able to get a job. There were other things that girls could do. You could be a nurse, you could be a teacher, you could be an assistant, a dental assistant. All those were things that young ladies, can, fulfill their dreams along those lines. They're still there. You still have young ladies. Mrs. Muritala Muhammad, the first time I met her, she was a dental assistant. Little did we know that her husband was going to be the head of state and she would be first. So you see, lots of things were there for the young girl who wanted to learn, who had the talent, and who wanted to perform, and who wanted to work hard. But now I don't know if girls want to work hard. All they want is, the table to be set, and then they come and, partake of whatever is there. It wasn't too difficult at the time that I was picked as one of the people to come and appear on WNTV. The audition was actually carried out before my time. I got involved in so many other things, trying to get a job, something to secure, something, to alleviate poverty. There was not too much poverty in Nigeria at the time because people could still eke a living for themselves and, get by in society. But I was lucky that I had an aunt who was a nurse in the hospital in Ibadan, UCH in Ibadan. And she was married to an Englishman, and the man's friend happened to have been the man, Mr. Mathers, who was brought as one of the technical partners to WNTV. So we met at a dinner party, and just as you and I are chatting, I was only 18 plus. I was 17 when I took part in the pageant. But by this time, I was growing up, and I thought I was a big girl. So I opened my mouth, and I said a few things. And the man looked at me and said, "How come you are not speaking with a Nigerian accent?" And I didn't know what he meant, because we were taught at St. Mary's to deliver whatever lines we were given to deliver. The Festival of Arts, I came second after an English boy from Corona School. And I was given a beating for coming second. Not because I didn't perform well, but because I forgot to curtsy. And one of the judges, I think, who was then Mrs. Abayomi, Lady Abayomi, said that I delivered my lines very well. If I were the Lord of Tartary, I would do this and that and the other. So I came second. And when I got back to the school, the nun, Sister Marieta, said, "You were not paying attention." So whatever you do in life, you have to be consistent. You have to perform well. The way we're trying to do now, the way we're trying to project your voice and whatever it is you have to offer with a lot of humility, not, trying to show off or to project your own image, or whatever message you have to deliver, you have to make sure that it is well delivered. The following year, St. Mary's Convent School, which is my old school, which is 150 years old in existence, went to the same King's College Hall, and we beat a lot of secondary schools. We came first. Pied Piper of Hamelin. Have you ever heard of that poetry? Pied Piper of Hamelin was about someone who wanted to get rid of all the rats in Europe. And all he did was to play the pipe. So that is what we were more or less doing. That's what you and I have done. Being a Pied Piper, trying to get off all the ills in society. That's the main job of a broadcaster. There's so many things happening in the country, and it's only TV and radio that binds the country together. If the country falls apart tomorrow, we will rely on someone from radio or from television to make the announcement, to introduce the head of state who has just won the election, or the one who has just taken over. It's a huge responsibility. At that age, at 19, We had to introduce people like Chief Obafemi Awolowo on TV. We had to introduce people like Akintola, Oladoke Akintola, as the premier. And when everything broke down and it all went into smithereens, they brought in Chief Majekodumi as the administrator of the Western region. All this happening before our eyes. There were no other stations in the country except WNTV. And we were there, so we learned quite a lot. In fact, I believe that the whole country revolves around broadcasting. And if you are part of that organization, how would you feel at my age, at 80-something? As young people, perhaps you don't know all this history that I'm telling you about. It's a long, long story. But when you sit down, you have to put it all into perspective. You see that, well, some people are actually meant to be in different positions. Some people are meant to be doctors. Some people are meant to be nurses. For those of us that are in broadcasting, it's a huge responsibility. It's a passion. Sometimes you don't even know how you got there in the first place. Or somebody may have discovered you. It's like being in Hollywood in those days. Someone has to develop, so you have the talent, the latent talent, and then somebody will discover you. So that's how I was discovered by Mr. Mathers at a dinner. I was put in that place because I had won the Miss Western Nigeria contest. If I hadn't done that, I probably would be somewhere in the kitchen washing plates, washing all the dishes. So there you are, if that answers your question. Well, there's no one that actually picks someone and puts you plonk without, I mean, of course, if you don't have any experience on the job, you have no business being there in the first place. But if I had taken part in Firefight of Hamelin towns in Brunswick, I was only 13. By famous Hanover City, I was speaking like an English person. When I was only a Nigerian, little girl being nurtured, by my mother, who was a seamstress, how would you ever get there? But you already have that background, that solid background on the rock, as it were. So, by the time I was ready to go on TV, I had learnt from all the other, people that I mentioned their names earlier, like Anike Agbaje Williams. And I wouldn't say it was easy, because you always have that, butterfly fluttering in front of the camera or wherever. I think I took to television like I was meant to be there, with all humility. If I had been groomed by all these nuns that I have mentioned their names, they came to Nigeria to serve the people. They were not earning salaries, To become a nun, you have to take the oath of obedience, chastity, poverty, and all that. So you're not earning a salary. But whoever is there now is thinking of how much money he's going to get from whatever take comes from here, there, and yonder. So they taught us well. And nobody said you're going to go and appear on TV or you're going to be on radio. But just do what you're meant to do properly, with a lot of sense of responsibility and diligence. And that stands at the back of your mind. That goes everywhere with you, wherever you go in life. Even when I was nursing a sick child, my late son was a sick child, and I was meant to take part in Verdict 79 with my colleagues Kerry Ahmed and Adamu Aogi. They all came with me to the hospital, which is just next door here. And then we came back and mounted the podium and continued her business as if nothing was happening. It didn't die at the time, of course, but the job must go on. That is always there at the back of your mind. So my first night, I wouldn't say that I didn't have any jitters, you know, that I was not nervous. But I was able to deliver, and I think that was what, the staying power. That was what kept me going, because other people came on board. I was not the only one. All the members of the board had their own, you know, little nephews and nieces that they wanted to project on TV. They all came and they couldn't make it. But Anike and I kept going. And if you gave me a script now, I think I would try and... We didn't have too many, what do you call it then, teleprompters. But I was very good at, you know, I had a photographic memory. So I was able to get hold of the script, and in less than 60 seconds, I'll be able to deliver it straight to the camera. That was one of the assets that I had also, which was God's gift. It's not by own might or whatever you think you have. You have the talent, of course, but also there has to be some other little bits of gifts that, you know, will help you to project the image of the professional. A lot of controversy. There is hardly any TV, radio, movie personality that can scale through that without any, because people are watching, people are trying to find their own little, you know, bits of criticism here, there, and yonder. You can't be a goodie, you know, 2 shoots without, you know, any, how shall I say it, problem here, there, and yonder. So everybody has their own way of looking at people. People say, well, what has she got to do? She went to take part in Miss Western Nigeria the other day. So what's the big deal about her? And then somebody will still add their own salt and pepper here and there. But I was lucky that I was being nurtured by someone like T.O.S. Benson, who was then our Minister for Information. And he felt that, you know, everything should not stop here. There were things happening in America. He made sure that my name was there. I was at the inauguration of President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson. And we commanded a lot of attention there, myself and my colleague who came from Lagos, the station in Lagos. And for the president to notice that there were 2 black people sitting behind him at his inaugural ball, I think it was very overwhelming for me, because not many black people had invitation to that event. But Charity Adadevo and I were there, and he stood up and shook our hands where we were sitting behind, 3 rows behind the president. Then Kennedy had died, and we were still nothing, you know, we were still feeling very hot about, you know, the loss of Kennedy. And here was the new president coming up. We were not particularly keen on being welcomed by him. But then, you know, things like that happen to you, and it makes headline news. 2 black people, they didn't even say Nigerians. They thought we were from Ghana, because some journalists came around and said, how is your man Nkrumah? And we said, no, our own Prime Minister is Tafawa Balewa. They never heard of him then. But then they had to go and carry out their own study and find out who Tafawa Balewa was. And of course, the whole country was very proud of us that we went and actually stole the show at the inauguration of President Lyndon Johnson. So many other things happened. When I came to London, the British Information Office, they were trying to look for someone to host their program. That just happened to be around, so they picked me to host their program. But you don't ad lib on any of those stations. Everything is written out. The questions, even your answer will be written. You can change it around a little bit, but to make sure that you said the right thing at the right time. So that was how we were able to gain attention. German television also invited us because they were interested in Nigeria. See how the German chancellor came to Nigeria. That was what happened at the time. In 1963, we had just gained, we had just become a republic then, from being an independent station in 1960. By 1963, we then became a republic. And we were chosen to go and appear on German television in Berlin. And they wanted a little bit of culture. So Benson had his own band. So we were chosen to go and represent Nigeria then. Nobody knew who the ambassador was, but they wanted to know who was presenting something on TV. So that's how important television has been. And that, in fact, we were the first television in the whole of Africa. The very first station, WNTV, that was a call signal. WNTV, first in Africa. There's nothing like that now. Nobody wants to know whether you are first or second. But the station that is being run in Nigeria, I think, has the largest number of stations than any other country in Africa. We have about 21 stations, and now it's still, still counting. And yours is coming on board, and so many others. I think next to America, Nigeria should have been the best country for television broadcasting in the whole world. There's not so many countries in the world that has as many stations as Nigeria. We only have to put our heads together. We only have to find joy in whatever we're doing. Sometimes when it's raining, people say, oh, it's raining, and they feel very bad about the rain. But if you look closely, behind that rain, there will be sunshine, there will be something else coming on. You see some silver clouds coming during the rain, but Nigerians don't have the patience to wait for that kind of thing. That's what television teaches you. If you're in the studio, you don't know what's happening outside. You just get on with the job. That's what we were taught. We were taught not by Nigerians. Even when we started, we couldn't go on air and ad lib. There was always someone there, Mr. Blackledge, to write the script. And if you can commit that to memory and deliver it, they're home and dry. It's not everyone that has a gift, not everyone that has a talent. It's God-given. And if you listen as a child at 17, 18, 19, at my own age, I learned from school, and I was able to impart this into the job. So within a few months, we got double promotion, all of us, because we were doing very well. Anika Agbadi was excellent. Sope was superb. And so many other people reading the news. We were the first female to read the news. Women were not allowed to read the news. Nigeria started it. BBC wouldn't allow a woman to pick up a script and read the news. But we were already there. So that's how we were able to gain this global attention that you mentioned. It's not easy. Not easy. Like I said, when we were taught not by Nigerians. But somebody came along the line and said, we don't have to speak like English people. You can just carry on and use your own parochial background. If you are a Roboman, you can speak English the way you like. That was his own idea. Because he didn't believe in us doing all this la-di-da and trying to, say things the proper way. But that watered down the standards a bit. Because then everybody, maybe he had a relation who wanted to appear on TV. And he wasn't allowed to because he couldn't speak like Ikenanda Goba or Bojalalade and things like that, or Friday Fude or Mike Nahu. So somebody must have gone to him and said, oh, because he doesn't speak like any of those people who were taught by, foreign teachers, people who had learned, people who knew what a DJ, we had a Bible then, that you had to pronounce your words correctly. So he came and said, now that I'm DG, I'm not going to tolerate all this, your English way of speaking. And some other people, of course, that watered down the standards. That's not our own making. We were still ready to continue the way we were doing, but then they pushed us to the background. But there were others who were able to perform well. Ruth Benamesia, Opia, Siene Oweber, and of course Bimbo Oloyede, who was born in England. If you already employed those people to deliver the goods and to present your programs, you're not going to sack all of them because they speak with English accent. I don't see how that can be an offense. You cannot be, guilty of speaking English well, like the English people. But they then brought out other people. And you had the head of presentation. I became head of the presentation after I came under Guba. And you're trying to prepare your roster. You wanted to put such people online to read the network news. And they say, okay, bring somebody who can speak like the Radididu and do a little bit of Ewe on the side. It's part of our culture. So that is what is happening to TV broadcasting in Nigeria. It's all very interesting. So, this cultural milieu and bringing, a touch of Nigeria. Nigeria is doing well. In that aspect, in the music world, I think we're leading. Some of us who grew up on Handel's Messiah and Mozart, we have to sort of put our hands behind our back now and watch, all the way things have turned around. And Nigerian music is doing well. Afrobeat is reigning everywhere in the world. So really you can't find faults with that. So when they watch a bit of Fela and his children and all his grandchildren doing well, then listen to the channels on TV, you have to take what you get from there. So if somebody can wake up one day and say, why should your station be called the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation? I say it should now be Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. Tongue twisting. Takes a long time to come to terms with. If everyone wake up in the morning and say, this is Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, you have the call signal. Da 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 da. This is the Nigerian Broadcasting whatever. How are you going to put that, into context with the new one? First of all, when you wake up, you don't know whether you are even coming out of the right side of your bed or not. You are going to have to face your audience and say, we are no more the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation. We are now Federal whatever, which you don't even know where the man, who came up with the idea. He didn't even consult you, didn't even put it to test. If the British corporation, they are going to change from BBC after 100 years, they will ask the whole nation, they will say, where are we going to take this from? They will ask everybody, they will do a census, they will do all kinds of things, carry out all kinds of tests to see whether people will accept it from them. No. Nigerians are very hard and cut and dry. This is the way I want it. I'm the head of state, so I can change everything now and, all of you can start marching forward and march back again. soldier go, soldier come. I think Fela would have been a good head of state for Nigeria because he would have got some people marching the right way. So, I think that is what has happened to this country. But we will still settle down. The soldiers that have been marching since, they will do attention one day. And then we'll be able to sort ourselves out gradually. I think we're going through the right process now. People are beginning to find their own feet. If things go around, price of goods go up, Nigerians will find a way to come to terms with that. When we were growing up, everything was done. We won't say according to the colonial rules and regulations, but at least there were standards that were set down for you and things that you had to toe the line. This is the proper way to do things. But if somebody says, no, let's turn around and turn it upside down. First stack. It's the only thing that has happened to the whole world from Nigeria that shook the whole world. That brought everybody attention to see what Africa has to offer the whole world. It happened here on this soil in Nigeria. I was a member of the ceremonial committee. I remember the opening ceremony. There were about 15 heads of state. We've never had anything like that since then. That is what we should ask ourselves. Every head of state that takes over from Nigeria should find out again. It's not from broadcasting that you can get the answer. You can get the answer from technocrats who had worked in all those areas. What happened? How come it couldn't happen again? It's like Armageddon. Every country was represented. Every culture was represented. Miriam Akiva was watching us and called us at the station one day and said, even from the way we linked programs, they couldn't expect that it could be happening in Nigeria. We received phone calls. People were sending us bottles of champagne on the air. The links. Bimbo Oloyede was there with me. I was at the opening ceremony. I was yanked from there to come back to the station. From, interacting with the head of state or with our head of state at the time to come and man the station because what was phenomenal. How come we've not been able to do it? 77 years, how long ago was that? I was only 37 years old then. I'm going on 90 now. It hasn't happened again. We should examine that. Even the head of state that was there is still alive. Let's ask him again. Let us put him down and say, Oga, please explain to us what happened. Some people came up with a theory that the symbol that was used was fetish. That is what has happened and Nigeria has turned upside down. If that is acceptable, it may be superstitious in your eyes, but let us find out. Let's go call the Babalawo. Is it bad that it is a Nigerian that carved this image? And it is making news outside the world. Now you say, no, it is not good that Nigeria should be able to project an image that would attract the whole world, something that will bring everybody on their knees. After the first attack, we were still recovering, just bathing in the glory of first attack. What's this artist, the blind one, who was not part of it, who didn't believe in it, he came and had his own first attack, all on his own, from America. Stevie Wonder, he came with his whole team. We had to mount all the cameras back in the studio for him. He had his own 7-day festival here in Nigeria. What prompted him to do that? Other people came. They wanted to know what was happening in Nigeria. What has happened? We couldn't have another festival since then. What do you think went wrong? Nothing went wrong. Everything went so well that people wanted to destroy our own Nigerian people. Wanted to destroy the glory that's this whole thing that's emanated from it. It hit the whole world. People are asking, when you go to Britain, you say, what happened? Why aren't you having? I had a friend who was head of the, he was from the British Guyana, a black guy. He was friends with everybody. He knew all Nigerians. Said, what happened? Why are you going to have another festa? Professor Ian Hall, he keeps asking me. Even if we can't have it because it was very expensive anyway, Nigeria had all the money. Even though we had a coup after, it was first of all the brainchild of Gawan. And then Muritala came on board. Muritala was killed, but in spite of that, they couldn't kill that dream of having a festa in Nigeria. If we are able to bring out all those programs again, I think we'll be able to answer those questions. I'm still alive. There are a lot of people who will still want to know the answer to that. It's a very, very brilliant question that you have asked. I think if it was another country, they'll set up an inquiry and say, what happened? Can we resuscitate this whole dream? Some of the tapes that we had then in WNTV, some people put them in one place and set fire to them because they felt maybe somebody in their religious organization said, you are the one projecting all these things, so Nigerians are bringing idols around. Who gave them the idea to make the idol? It's God now. It's from God. Whatever thing you were able to put together. The Bible was put together because God loved the world so much and He wanted us to learn about, things that had gone out from the time of Adam and Eve. God loved the whole world and created Muhammad and said, put people together and let them say Allah Akbar every day, morning, noon, night. God created so many wonderful things for us, so many images that we can imbibe from, so many things that we can learn from. People want to come and learn about our country. Instead, we say, we want our sculptures back. What are you going to do with them? You don't have a museum where you're going to put them to make them thrive and people come here to Nigeria. It's a good idea for them to come, but if they learn about your country, what your people have done over the past 2,000 years. 2,000 years of Nigeria image was put together by the BBC. Nigeria went and tore it up in shreds. He tore it up. He said, what are you doing with that? What you call bad belly. I don't know if anybody sang a song with that title. If we maybe start from there and say, what do you do with your own bad belly? Some people, National Stadium. There is no theater in England, in London, that I know that I've gone to watch plays and things that have not been in existence for over 500 years. So many studios. We have one big one, the dream of Nigerians. And now we want to go and do banking there. We want to go and do trade. It's supposed to be for culture, for our own culture. Lagos State will be dragging federal government by the neck and say, no, we own the theater now. And we want somebody to come and do something there. If we can only put all these things behind us, the evil that people have done in the past, people like Julius Caesar, when they were writing all those, when Shakespeare was writing all those things like that have happened in the past. We should examine them. Get people like Wale Soyinka to sit down and rewrite the whole history again. If they ask me questions like you are asking me now, I will be there to answer. Because I saw it all unfold before my eyes. The image of Nigeria will come tops. All the stations in Nigeria should get involved and do stories on this question that you've asked me. A very salient question, and I love it so much. That might be able to revive the image of this country and let us know where we are heading, in what direction, and bring us back to really point of salvation. Well, I haven't seen it. I must have mentioned it somewhere. I think on one of the channels when they was trying to build the scandal around it, and I said, and I tried to put the record straight. That wasn't really what happened, and that's it was from, I think it was from a book that was written by one of the wives that said that I was party to his breakdown of their marriage. And I was trying to put the record straight that that wasn't really the true picture. I have due respect. I have to, bow wherever I come in the presence of a president of this nation, past, present, or even present, yes. I hope I'll still be around when we have others coming on board. But I was taken aback that the head of state asked me a question that, because in the past, we were in the studios when the head of state came, and we were given scripts. If there had been, there had been several coups, and it's always the presenter or the station like that, the managers that take the brunt of the whole, the issue when things like that happen. You don't know who is coming. You don't know how many jeeps are going to be coming in. You don't know how many, what you call their, all those heavy equipment that they drive in as they are coming into the studio. You don't know where they are going to shoot the station down. Nobody knows that. It's only the people who have worked during that period that can relay those experiences. Sometimes you're at work in the morning. By the time you come back in the afternoon, the government has changed. And if you haven't got maybe your ID card, you won't be allowed into the station, or somebody can throw you in or into jail. So all this had happened in the past. Nobody has told any of these stories. People like Segun Lushola or Dr. Kolade. Somebody might come and say, so has happened. I was driving my former husband to work in the morning. I dropped him at the station. By the time I reached home, there had been a coup. Murtala had been killed. And they were under siege, the whole station. Just imagine that kind of scenario. Things like that had happened in the past. But Nigerians don't have that sense of history that wants to sit down and say, well, we want to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Of course, we'll pray that it doesn't happen again. And you wake up in the morning and somebody is announcing something else, different from what you have. A colleague of ours had been, pushed into something that he wasn't aware of. Those are kind of situations that have happened in the past. But this one, we were all dressed in ceremonial costume and trying to, I was the only one that was asked to stay in the presidential, what do you call it, special area that is demarcated for head of states on issues like that. And all of a sudden, the president is following me all about. And I said, this is getting too close for comfort. And I said, what's your name again? I said, my name is Julie Coker. I was trying to play innocent, that I didn't know what was happening. He said, hey, how much did this your dress cost? Can I have, sorry, sir. I don't think I'm the proper person to answer that question, sir. Yeah, you don't have answer. It's a bit unprofessional. I mean, not in the profession per se that we mean, but I wasn't prepared for that kind of thing. So I must have given a rude answer to And then, before I knew it, Ade Langwa, who was then the head of Navy, came to me and said, "You have been very rude to the president." The president said, he asked you a question and you couldn't answer. I said, "Good morning, Mr. President, sir." Because when we introduce them on TV, that's how we introduce them. We're now going to be addressed by a new head of state, Mr. So, sir. And I said he should go and ask the president of SOUQ. I'm sure he has a record of what the question is asking me can be answered, better answered by the president of SOUQ. If he finds that unbearable or rude, then either that one is not doing his work well or I'm not doing my work well and I don't belong here. But I carried on regardless. Shortly after that, another top army officer, Joseph Garuba, that one was the tallest man next to Ufwe Bonye, or the one from Mali. And he said, "Julie, I know you can be rude at times." I said, "Not on this occasion. This is a wonderful occasion for the whole nation. And I'm trying to be my best behavior." And he said, the president said, "You're being very rude to him." He said, "I know you, maybe you can say things." And I said, "No, I never." He asked how much the dress cost. And I don't think I have an answer, which may contradict what will be on record if you really examine it thoroughly. I was getting very nervous at the time. So I dropped everything and disappeared from the scene, and I never went back again. But the thing reverberated right down to all the committees and members. My late auntie, what's her name? Kentebe, which was a lady, commodore of the Navy. She said, "Julie, I think she heard that she was going to be sacked that day because the naval officer sent to her and said, 'You are the one that did this.' And I said, 'Can never, God forbid, can never reach me because I'm not in the forces. I'm doing my own job here as a professional broadcaster.'" Well, I think it has reached a stage now where whatever you say might be taken against you because there are so many people going to court now and people sent to jail, but things were not as bad as they are now because some of the gory stories we hear and people being, penalized and sent to jail, I think it has reached an astronomical level that it's something that's actually, maybe it was there and people did not want to open the canker worms and let us see what is really happening. In my own case, it was a deliberate attempt on the part of an aunt of mine who felt that there's no child that should continue going to school at a certain age. And they were trying to arrange for me to get married to somebody. And it's a tradition of our people, in Delta, to find out whether the girl is still a virgin. Then they go and look for one old man. It's not this, the one that is happening is child abuse now. I don't know what to call that one. There are other cases too of children being sold into, prostitution and to apply this a trade that by some madams, which is not really acceptable. But there are other areas that maybe some parents cannot pay for their children's school fees, so they send them, into child labor or whatever. I think every child should be given a chance to have, proper education. If Awolowo can start free and fair education to children, whether all genders, boys and girls, see what the results that have come out of that. But in some other parts of Nigeria, they believe that that it's not acceptable in their religion, and so they still keep the children down. and send them into early marriage. And a lot of people have dealt, people like Dr. Simi Johnson, they were in the, forefront of that vanguard to liberate the children who have been kept, into powder at age 13. And when they have children, they are not able, either they die, premature deaths from, being too early to go into pregnancies and have the children properly and things like that. Different stages, it's a very serious issue that actually I think has been well looked into, not by the United Nations or by, but Nigerian government itself should look at it more, more serious terms and try to find how to deal with it. But there's something that happened in some homes, which is now coming out now, which in the past, members of the family will not allow maybe a woman that is a victim. The child is a victim, but there are other, things that sort of trigger down the line, like a wife, for instance, who is watching her husband, trying to abuse children that are under their care. And the children definitely cannot, rise to the level that a child who's being abused at an early stage cannot continue with her education. So I have been involved in issues like that because I was affected as a 13-year-old when an aunt of mine felt that I should stop going to school. But I was rescued by another aunt. So I was lucky at the time. Not many people have been able to, get through all this kind of trauma. I was lucky that just at the time, the man was busy talking to some other people, and it's like somebody being kidnapped and another person coming to your rescue. So I was lucky at my own, to escape that unscathed and get on with my life. If I hadn't gone through, maybe I would have been having 13 children. It's good to have children so that the population will multiply. But then you have to make sure that the children are able to, get on with their education. And when you educate that child, you're able to look after other children. I've raised so many children in the process, I was able to earn enough money to take care of members of my family. And that is what everybody should sort of, try and rise up to that challenge. Our Chief Folami Koka was the Babeto of Lagos. So, and I used to accompany him to the palace of Yekon. And someone then said, well, Yeto, why don't you let... He wanted his wife to be the Yeto, but she rejected it. She said she didn't want to because, she thought they were going to perform some fetish. This is really fetish. My brother now turned to me and said, Julie, do you want the title? I said, no, it's not for me to say, because I wasn't terribly keen. But he said he was going to carry out all the preparations. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, why not? And the late Oba Yekon graciously offered me the title. I accepted and went through the ceremony. So I've been a year of Lagos now for getting on 40-something years. We only have one majesty in England. And that is one of the oldest institutions in the world. Some other countries are getting rid of their heads of their traditional rulers. France doesn't have one, for instance. There are some countries in Europe, I think in Finland, that still have, kings and queens and all that. But Nigeria, every little village, every doorstep has one title. This is the palace of the so. It wasn't like that in our own time. We had only one Oba in Lagos. Now you have so many. You have several Obas. This one claiming this and that. It's Osa. It's whatever. After a while, there's going to be a clash. Maybe not in our own time. So if they're playing traditional roles, somebody will lay claim to some title that belongs to somebody else and another one. There's no end to it. So let them stay the way they are now. If they want to multiply, that has nothing to do with me because we don't have any say in that. It's not, because you can say now that this station is trying to sell this idea to be propagating an idea that should not be. I don't think anyone should play any constitutional role. If each one has its own, in the states at the state level, they take it, I think it's rotated after a while. One steps down, another one takes over at that level. If they want to go and attend the meeting at the House of Assembly, that's up to them. But at the federal level, I think, no. No. I don't approve of it at all. Because then you have some woman coming on and saying that he's the one that is entitled to the title. It's not, I don't know whether any African country actually accepted that sort of thing. So Nigeria shouldn't start. Nigeria at certain points in any of these things. Once Nigeria starts, other people will start. And before you know it, the whole thing will skyrocket and another war starts. We have enough problem on our hands as it were now. No, we are lagging behind. It's such a terrible shame that we only have about 4 women in the Senate. It's ridiculous. We seem to be dancing backwards. In that regard, I think that is falling short. Totally. There was a time when there were more. There doesn't have to be more women in the Senate. I think there should be maybe 50%. Not even 30-something affirmative, whatever that they went to Beijing to talk about. There should be more. There should be more women participating in politics. I don't know whether it's because. No. I don't want. I just believe that we should have more women in politics. Because women are more sensible. Women are glamorous, they come out looking beautiful, but their contribution to national issues, I think, more. Look at a man who went to beat up somebody in the house, and he says he's a hero. Hero of where? That kind of man should not be allowed to even come and address the press. Maybe the press find it funny, humorous to feature somebody like that. There's no woman that will come on TV and speak like that. If you examine every single one of the men, they all have different issues. Some of them have issues about wives and men and things that they have been doing, or they are corrupt and they have been taking money, dipping their hands into different coffers. No woman would do that. I think women are more, serious-minded, and they address issues the way they should be addressed, and they will take more care of issues that affect the nation, girl-child issues, health issues. The men don't even care about health issues. They don't even want to know what's happening. The men even wear bigger agbadas than when they are going to the house. First of all, they should cut down on the amount of clothing that some of them wear. They spend more time thinking of their image, how they're going to appear. Since television has now gone into the chambers, you find that they spend more time, on things like that. And it's ridiculous. We watch other countries, the way their parliamentary issues are being addressed. We're not learning anything from that. We shouldn't be learning from them. They should be coming to learn from us if we're doing the things we're supposed to be doing properly. But if women are really at the forefront of all this, I'm sure that they'll be able to calm all those hot issues that erupt sometimes in the houses. With worry, my mother. I was brought up as an Ichekiri child by my mother. I was taught to sing Ichekiri songs, to speak Ichekiri well, to address issues that affects the people of worry. My stepfather, who also brought at the hand in my upbringing, was an Ichekiri man. So I think that takes care of all those things. Well, I was brought up in Lagos, so I have this dual kind of nationality, and I knew my father came from Egba land, but I didn't have much to do with him. I only have connection with the family, like, Toye Koka, who was my uncle, who took care of me as well, but he was too busy doing other important things. But occasionally when they're having issues in the family, I'm invited like a stranger. But because I speak Yoruba very well, and I passed all my exams, and I used to do all my programs in Yoruba in Ibadan in those days on radio, WNBS. So I can still hold my head high in that regard. I think I function very well. It's like the King of England. He sometimes goes home to his Greek family. When, Prince Charles, when he was prince, he used to go on holidays with his family from the Greek side. And in fact, it looks like some of them sometimes when they are together. So yeah, I think it's allowed. Well, one of the first one, by 40 years in TV, which is actually showcasing all the my life in broadcasting from the early stages, which actually should have answered some of the questions, was a textbook in Kenya for many years, because the minister came to Nigeria, and my GG then, Mohammed Ibrahim, had a whole box full of the books, and he gave them to the minister. And when the minister got there, he requested for more copies of the book. I never got paid for it, but I was delighted that they found the book so interesting. So maybe I'll get someone to serialize the book on TV sometime. We tried to do it some years ago, because I cannot be telling the stories all over again. This is about maybe another 30 years story. Again, we've done another sort of edition. My Life in the Limelight, which is the latest one. So if you have time, if you create space, you might be able to tell the stories and take it stage by stage. That's why I sell the book, and also, we get some media attention from sponsors and get things going. The sky will be the limit then. Well, eat well, eat the right food, type of food, eat Ichekiri pepper soup, or anybody else who's cooking pepper soup now, because then you don't have too much oil. I think that damages certain things in the tissues. And if you want to avoid having cancer, there's nobody in my family that has ever died of cancer because of the type of food we eat. So get someone, to prepare. There was a time when Ichekiri food was being prepared in the museum, and people used to go there to collect the ingredients and the menu, and people live well. So people are eating Chinese food, which is good. It's healthy, and lots of vegetables. I recommend that for people. I'm not saying that very good health, but I still walk about on crutches. I don't know, my knees are not functioning very well. But still, if you say, paid me compliments, I accept it. Thank you very much indeed.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.